Okay, good afternoon, class. Welcome to week 9 of cybersecurity management. So this is gonna be the last week of lecture content. Next week will be review. So we are really at the end here. We really end of the road. And this week is about incident response plan. Before we begin, just take a few minutes to see if you guys have any questions for me. I will try to answer to the best of my understanding only. If I cannot answer, then I would refer you to Jamal. Yes, feel free to unmute yourself and ask question if you like. Okay. No questions mean everything is, I hope that everything is going well, and especially with assignment 3, which I think is due next week, I think. But I believe that the peer review is due before that. So make sure that you don't forget to do the peer review. Okay. Don't want to lose unnecessary mark because we forgot to do the peer review. It's very important so that we can distribute the mark fairly among the team members. For those who just joined us, if you have any questions, you can ask now before we begin with the lecture content. Okay, that's great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Let's get started. This week, as I said, is about incident response, and it might be true that we left one of the most important things to the last, right? Keep the best for last, because I remember some of you have already mentioning this word incident response right from week 1 when we discussed what cybersecurity is about and what do you think cybersecurity management involves. What is the most important component of cybersecurity management? And many of you mentioned incident response. And there's no surprises because incident response is really at the heart of cybersecurity management. Okay, you can do all of the control that you can implement all the most expensive control in the world, but remember um, one of the key takeaway of this course is that your company will be compromised at some point. It's a matter of time, not a matter of if. So what is even more important is that you have a plan in place to deal with the security breach, right? Because you assume that it must happen at some point. So such unwanted cybersecurity event is called incident or cybersecurity incident, and we need a plan in place to respond to them. Okay, and the reason why we want to have incident response is not only to know, like in order to deal with the event better, have a structured way, like well thought out way to deal with this event, but it's also show an external party that you are well prepared. Okay, having an incident response in place indicate that you have think hard about like what could happen to the company, right? And you are well prepared. You are well equipped when bad thing happen. Yeah. So incident response is about respond to bad event. Right? And in this week, we go a little bit more abstract and we talk about incident response plan. So it's not about what to do, but it's about planning what to do. Yeah. So it's about incident response plan. It's about planning. So most of the important thing in cybersecurity management involve planning. And that's why we have planning in the very early week of this unit. I think in week 3, we talk about planning. Okay, so incident response plan is one type of planning. Okay, so it's just like risk management. And what did we learn last week? We learned last week about best practice, best practice plan, right? We also have a plan for everything. So incident response is no exception. Similar to last week, the content of this week would be pretty straightforward. Okay, so but if you have any comment that you want to add to the lecture, please feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourself and interrupt me anytime you want. The objective of this lecture is to discuss the need for incident response planning. So this answers the question why we need incident response planning. And we look a bit deeper into the major components of an incident response plan, and we define them. We define these components, see what they're about, and then we discuss how the organization would implement that plan. Right, would prepare and execute the incident response plan. This, of course, will vary between different organizations, but there's some major point that I think all of the organizations who implement a proper incident response plan would follow. So why do we need incident response? We need them because most organizations have experienced or will experience cybersecurity incident, and such unwanted incident could be attacks. Okay? You are a specific target for attacks. Could be an employee errors that is quite huge, could make a big impact in the company, or it could be service outages. Okay? So that is unwanted, but it's not like with malicious intent. It could happen because of some external factors, some external event like a power cut, something like that, that could cause a service outage, or something that we cannot control, which is small scale natural disasters. Okay, so those are all classified as cybersecurity incidents. We need to accept that such incident will happen, and we need a plan in place to handle such incidents. And this plan would include specific steps to detect the incident. Okay, you cannot do anything if you cannot tell whether this incident is happening or not. So the first step is to be able to detect the incidents. And once you detect them, you need to do something about it, right? So you need to react to the incident following best practice. You are lucky if the incident that you come across has happened to other companies before, so they already know what to do or what not to do about this incident, and you can just directly follow the recommendations. But incidents of two companies would most of the time be different. So you have to be creative in how to react to the incidents as well. And once you sort of contain and control the impact of the incident, you have to be able to recover from the impact of the incidents, right? So here you assume that something bad did happen, and you have stopped it. You have stopped it from like propagating further into the network, and now you need to restore the system to the previously good state, right? So the incident could like wreak havoc into the system, could cause all the service to go offline. In that case, recovering from incident means that getting the system back online and getting the service up and running again. So this is recovering. Okay, so there are a few concepts, high-level concept related to incident response. The first concept is planning. I think this arrow here is a little bit like in the opposite direction. So you have to first start with incident response planning, which is the process of creating and maintain a plan to respond to incident, right? So it involves activity like risk assessment, threat modeling, vulnerability assessment, policy, procedures, testing, and training. Okay, so many of these keywords you have seen in the past. risk assessment in week 6 or 7, threat modeling, and vulnerability assessment all the way back to week 1 and week 2. Policy and procedures, like policy and governance, thing like that, is in week 4 or 5. And training, yeah, we did that in week 5 too. Okay, so all of this, all of this component must be in place first, before you can start to think about incident response plan. Okay, so incident response in this sense, it will bring together many of those components. So when you have a response planning in place, the next step is to actually write out that plan, to design that plan, to put concrete detail into the plan. So this one the outcome of this step will be a document that outlines the procedures, the roles and responsibility. All the detailed step, all the necessary information will be in this document. And if you need to find any information about how to handle a security incident for this particular company, this incident response plan will contain them. Okay. And it also contains in communication plans, escalation procedures, and technical response procedures. Okay, so it involves more than the technical fix that you need to apply to the system, right? You need to somehow communicate with other humans as well, and communicate with the customer as well. So this is all part of the incident response plan. It's not necessary, it's just focus on the technical vulnerability that has been exploited. And after you have the detailed incident response plan in place, then you can implement them. Okay, so the implementation of incident response plan is like how you actually do it, right? So this is the actual process of responding to a security incident. So if you're lucky enough, you might not have to invoke this incident response implementation a lot, but the implementation is there when you need it. Okay, so it's the actual process. So when the incident happen, this is what is the step that you are doing. Involves step like detection, analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and lesson learned. Okay, so these are all the instances of how the plans plays out for different incidents. Okay, so you can think of incident response plan as if you are familiar with Java or other object-oriented programming language, then this plan is like a class, right? And incident response is like an object, so an instantiation of the plan. And this is every incident response for different incident will be different, but they are all instances of the plan. Okay. Any questions or comment here about the high-level concept? Okay. So there's a difference between planning, plan, and the implementation. Okay, it's actual execution of the plan. Yeah, but you have to start with the planning, and then you have the plan in place, and then once you have the plan, you can execute it. Okay. So I think there's no surprise here. No, there's nothing unexpected about this process. Okay. So in terms of personnel, there's two important teams. I mean, you don't have to name them as such, but I think their functionalities are included in this two group. So the first is the incident response planning team. Is the one who is responsible for the first two steps here: incident response plan and incident response planning. So yeah, their main focus is to perform the planning. And they are the one who appointed the second team, We will get into a bit later. And this team is responsible for articulating the organization response to various types of incidents and advise the user on how to contribute to the response, right? Rather than contributing to the problem at hand. So It's about mobilizing the resources for implementing incident response, right? So they sit at the top. They're most I think most member of this team would come from the executive teams. Okay, so the team who does most of the work, most of the dirty work, is a computer security incident response team, or CSIRT. Okay, so CSI, yeah, the computers incident security incident response team. And yeah, I think you can guess from their names that they would do the most technical work. They are specialized group responsible for managing and mitigating security incidents. And this group include members from various teams. They cannot just come from the information security team. Okay, so one team that they come from is information security, of course, because this one is computer security incidents, right? So it must have some domain expert from the information security team. And it's also consider member from IT operation team and legal and compliance team and communication team as well. So in small companies, you can see that some personnel can assume multiple roles across multiple of these teams, right? But in big company, you can imagine that for each of these team, there are um, different person, and it means this team will consist of at least 4 different people from different groups, right? So looking at this team, I think this team structure, I think is easy to understand why information security personnel needed to be here. But let me ask you this: why do you think the IT operation guys have to be in as well? We will discuss each of this role in order, but let's discuss why do we need IT operations? What does it have to do with security incident? What do you guys think? What functions does a person from this team offer for incident response?
Well, if it's a sysadmins, then they actually have all the keys, all access to the systems.
Okay, and why do you need him to be in there for incident response?
Well, depends who else can it be, like who else have access to the systems besides those people. It might be no one else.
Security person can have access to those security related information too, right?
Yes, but they're not professionals in terms of the actual how the system is set up, how the equipment is configured. So they might not be capable to perform modifications or maintenance if required, for example.
Okay, so yeah,
maybe they don't know something about the system. They break it or fix something they think will fix the issue, but will break something else which will be much more crucial.
Okay, so I see 2 arguments here. The first one is that they give you access to part of the system, right? And the second is that they know the constraint of the system, like as if if you propose a fix, they might not agree with it, right? Because it might break other part of the system. Is that right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that is pretty important 2 reasons already, but anyone have other reason? You might think that this IT operation guys is needed.
They kind of monitor the network traffic. Just wants to see like if there's any unusual things happening.
Oh, okay. So you said that they monitor the network. So what is the benefit of that? Benefit of the guy who's been monitoring the network? I mean, what can he contribute to incident response?
Like they would be first one to detect if anything is wrong.
Ah, okay. So you say that they're very important because they are the one who detect the incident in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's good. So I mean, if someone report that incident, then they have to be in as well. Okay, that's good. I think. But I think you mentioned a very good role of this operation person that is they monitor the network. So in that sense, what else can he contribute to incident response? So by monitoring the network, he knows like what is normal and what is supposed to be not normal, right? And why does it help besides detecting that something, besides reporting that there are some malicious activity there?
They can try to like contain the threat, like isolate like affected networks, to try to like, or update firewall block things to limit
Okay.
damage.
I think those sounds like the function that is done by the information security experts, right?
Okay.
I mean, in terms of like containing those impact. But I'm more leaning toward like they know what is normal and what is not normal, right? So how helpful, how useful is that insight when you, for example, when you propose to investigate the incident or want to understand more about the incident? Why having such insight helpful to you?
They can provide details and reports and logs, and
Mm-hmm.
then they can recommend and change
Yeah. Okay. I think
configurations. Yeah.
I think
To
you get the
prevent.
idea there. I think you get the idea there. But let me give a more concrete example. Right? So there's an incident is reported, and when you investigate, you see like, okay, yesterday there's a sudden surge of traffic on that particular department, and you think that may be the reason why this incident happened, right? But the operation guys, IT operation guy, they said, oh no, this traffic is perfectly normal because yesterday we did some update. So by having that expertise, having that insight, you can like eliminate false leads, right? So you might like not follow that lead anymore and not wasting the time in investigate where the yesterday traffic was the reason for this incident. So they can have to eliminate a lot of like false positive and false negative when you want to verify the incident. That does that make sense? I think that is coming back to what Andre is mentioning earlier as well. I think he mentioned about verifications, right? But is that close to what you meant, Andre? Verifying
Yes,
whether
yes,
the incident is correct. Yeah.
because admins are those people who actually monitoring the health of the system and know how it works and know all like problems with it. So if you don't know that, and if you would be given access to a complex network system and asked to fix it out of the blue, most likely you'll break it. Like any professional would without expertise, previous knowledge about the complex system will probably break it if it try to just fix it.
Yeah.
Because it's just too complex, just too many variables, just many things to know how the system interact together. And if you don't not have this previous experience in that, like with this particular system, it's really hard to do something.
Yeah. I think it's not only hard, but it's I mean, having someone who knows like what's happening in the system can help you to speed up the process much quicker too.
I think
so
it's the same if, let's say, sometimes admin can leave the company and they don't have a redundancy, and then a new admin comes in and have to take over the system which he has nothing know about, not know anything about, and there's no documentation. This will be a really hard kind of scenario and likely will result in many failures before new admin will take a hand of what's happening. So that probably will be the same thing here. Like you can just get person who doesn't not in this and just give him keys and say, okay, now we have to fix it.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you would imagine that the people from the information security, they have some understanding of the system, but I think it's reasonable to assume that they don't have like the overarching view of the entire system. They focus very narrowly in things that are related to security, but I think operations are the guy who knows everything about how every server in the system work together, and this is very important. Yeah. It makes the process of verifying the incident quicker and more accurate as well. Yeah. So the next role, the next person in the team come from legal and compliance. Okay, and it's mentioned here that um, this person comes in to handle regulatory requirements and legal implications. Yeah, so just pause here and see what you think it means. What sort of like function that this person will fulfill in this team, and why are they needed? And can you come up with some sort of like a contrite but realistic example that is necessary to have a person from legal and compliance team here?
There are laws which can be breached by this incident, for example, privacy laws. And in this case, the legal team is supposed to come up with its own solution, how to mitigate this, how to properly deal with this issue to not be under fines or anything else.
So what you're saying that this person will recommend a fix if it's breaking the law?
No,
Do you think that person
fix,
is capable?
No, it will fix legal stuff, like kind of check out, let's say, suggest how to mitigate this particular issue to be compliant, to be in the legal boundaries. So, for example, might craft some communications to the clients or some like formal notifications to the authorities, for example.
Yeah. I think this very good example is like what we did in assignment 1 is that if the legal team know that you have to notify some authority, then you have to do it, right? If it's the incident, you cannot keep for yourself. So that is more on the response part, right? But how about I mean, would they be useful for the detection part? I mean, for the verification, for verifying of the incident, whether this is like a real incident or whether you should prioritize this one less or more? Would they be useful for those?
Not for the technical part, probably, but definitely they can kind of at least give advice if this accident is actually would have some ground for legal actions.
Yeah.
So they would have to assess it from legal perspective and say if this has to be reported, has to be notified someone. So they should be the ones who kind of take care about this side of the business.
Okay. So here you again mentioned about the response, right? About like whether you have to notify or not. But I think they can also be useful when it comes to assessing whether this incident is worth pursuing or not, right? It's like
yes,
to rank them.
I don't see how would assess actual severity of the incident from the system.
Yeah.
Based on my experience with them, they're not technical usually. But definitely they could be. They could answer question like first of all, in planning. In the planning phase, they could be the ones who can verify this from legal perspective and say if this plan is adequate, if what you're doing here, what you prepare to do for this would be legally sound.
Yeah.
And during let's say while accessing the incident, probably they can at least say like how do they think if this severe, if this actually poses the legal threat to the company.
Yeah.
Before even responding.
Yeah. So that is related to this term implication here. So it's not about the requirement, but it's about implication, what could happen, right? So they can give insight in which incident is posing more legal implication than than another. So you should focus more on that and respond more quickly to one incident over the others. So this could have the incident response to be more focused and more risk-based, in the sense that you address the incident that is most important to the company first. So that is good. I think that is very good contribution to the team as well. Okay, so the last person is from communication department, right? Why are they here? Why are they even here? I mean, communication to manage internal and external communications. Why do you think their role is important?
It says there to manage communications. They have to, if they will be like, if this incident would involve requirement to notify people or disclose this incident, they'll be the one to craft the communications, because you can do this in different ways, and some way, like the way you can formulate can really affect how people will feel about this in the long term. So they can mitigate the damage to the brand, mitigate the damage to the reputation by properly handling communication.
Yeah. So do you think that is more appropriate at the end of incident response or at the beginning phase of incident response?
Well, definitely mostly on response, but this can happen in advance. They can plan ahead and kind of come up with some ideas what we would do, what we will disclose, how do we do it, where do we do it, prior to any incident. So while planning the response plan, they can say, okay, if this happens, we want to send an email, and this will be the template in this case, even if they're not, because these things can be time critical, especially communications. So let's say it's one story if you disclose it yourself, another story if someone else closes it for you. So it might be that even worth thinking about how a template which anyone can just use and fill and send, and it will be polite, reasonable, like calming nature. So kind of mitigating the damage of a PR.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty good response to this. Yeah. Anyone else have other comments to add? Do you think that there's any other department is missing from this list? I mean, can you think of any other role that can contribute to this team, but is missing from this list? So we have a very technical team, a team that consists of a very technical person and very sort of a non-technical person, legal and communication and PR. This is a good mix, right? Anyone else is missing from this list, do you think? I mean, we already have the boss on board, right? Because they are the team who actually create this team, right? So I mean, the boss, the director and also executive is already on board with this team. So I think we can exclude them from here. But who else do you think is can contribute to this team? That is, whose role is not listed here? Okay, I cannot think of any other role on this. But I mean, if you think of any, then please let us know, and then we can discuss about this. I think it's pretty good teams already strike a very good balance between expertise. The question is whether they can work together or not is a different question, right? I mean, we need this expertise to handle the incident properly, but it's a completely different question of like trying to make them to work together well as a team.
I guess it depends on the nature of the company as well.
Okay.
Whatever they do. So, for example, if there's a satellite company, they might want to have a satellite developer or CTO on board. if there's a software incident, so they could update the code as well. If let's say they're using some third-party security software, they might have to at least liaise with the vendor on this.
Yeah.
So
I would guess the communication with third-party vendors or any supplier would go through IT operation, right, or information securities, because they are the one who engage those parties.
Well, I assume if they have, if it's a really high-end company, they might have just their own vendor, like a representative for them, dedicated, working for them. In this case, he will be on the team, or at least somehow included.
Yeah. And I think we assume here that all of this personnel come from inside the company, but can you imagine if company is too small, they have to engage, you have to hire an external company to do all of this, right? And it turns out that this incident response service is quite a lucrative market as well. And you can hire a third party to do this for you. I think CrowdStrike is one of the examples. I think they can do this one quite well. Okay, so incident response or IR, it need to be planned and coordinated because it's it's like multi-person task, right? Involving a lot of things, crossing a lot of department and crossing a lot of roles. So because a team is not a single person team, and you need to work with the others, so it need to be coordinated and it need to be planned way ahead. And this is important because incident response is like the last line of defense of the whole security program. Right? The last line, because if you don't respond to them, then it means that you don't do anything about cybersecurity management there. The organization depends on the quick and efficient containment and resolution of the incident. Because the resolution of the incident implies that the service is back up and running, is restored back to a previous good state, right? So if you don't do this, if you don't restore the system into a good state, and it means it is it's not generating any revenue, and it might be bad for reputation of the company as well. So it is important to do it quickly. And it's important to understand that incident response is a reactive measure. It's a response, right? It's not a preventive measure. Here, the name suggests that it like only deal with the incident after it happened. It's like after the fact. It's not a preventive one. It's not a preventive measure at all. And it is a good thing because you shouldn't focus much on preventive because you cannot, as I said many times, you cannot have 100% secure system, right? So it's maybe much better approach to accept the incident will happen and come up with a good plan to deal with them. The responsibility for creating the IR plan usually falls to the CISO. I think it's one of the most important functionality that a chief information security officer will need to fulfill. Okay, and if you do this job very well, then you'll be very highly sought after in the market, right? Or if an IT manager does it very well as well, then it's very good for him. Incident response plan. There's a good document form NIST called Special Document 800-61, Revision 2. And it gives, like any other NIST document, it gives you some guideline on how to structure the plan. Right? And the main point that you have to consider when thinking about forming an incident response plan. So the plan will include the mission, like the strategies and goals. Okay, we all familiar with this, like the mission statement and goals and objectives, things like that. You need to seek senior management approval And you have to describe how the organization will approach incident response as a whole. Like, what is the philosophy here? Like whether you will be prioritize like a good fix or over a timely fix, or what other priorities that you may have. So this plan would also specify how the incident response team will communicate, not only among themselves, but to other involved parties. And what are the metrics for measuring incident response capacity, capability, and effectiveness? So this one is very important. You propose a plan. This plan is implemented and it's cost like millions of dollars, but then incidents still happen and it's not response to appropriately, and that is a waste of money, right? So you have to have a plan in place for measuring whether this thing is working or not. And that goes back to the previous week, to last week lecture on how to measure whether a cybersecurity program is working or not. And incident response is an important part of that program, and they will be measured and will be evaluated using the same framework we learned last week. And in the plan, you need to think about a roadmap for evolving incident response to deal with emerging threats. And lastly, how the program fits into the overall organization. Here's the life cycle of the important step or important component in incident response. So this is very high level overview, and incident response in practice, they might not follow this step in order, in sequence, right? They may jump from one to the other quite erratically. But at the high level, you start with the preparation, which is planning and putting everything in place to anticipate and respond to incidents. And once you have the system in place, once you've done the preparation, you execute the detection component. So this component would detect the incident and analyze whether the incident is worth investigating or not. And the next step after detecting and analyzing is to do something about the incident, which translates to containment, eradication, and recovery. We will talk a little bit more about these different strategies in a minute. And you can see that these two steps are iterative, right? What is this called? There's a feedback loop here. Okay, so you detect and you analyze, and you detect again and you analyze. So this two step happen when the incident is ongoing, right? So for example, you might think that this incident has only one aspect, and you contain it, and or you try to eradicate, but it turns out that this incident is more than just one aspect, right? It has many other impact, many other sub-incidents that are related to it. So once you contain one aspect, you still detect some other incident related to it. So you have to go back here again and again and again and again until the system is back to the previous known state, like as if the incident has not happened, as when the root cause of the incident has been completely eliminated from the system. Only then would you move to the post-incident activities. Okay. And what happened is the post-incident activity is like some sort of reflective exercise to think about what worked and what didn't work. And using that insight, you need to update the preparation of the system to anticipate a new incident, like what you would do better if this similar incident would happen again. Okay, so this is another arrow going back to the preparation here. Okay, so each of this flow, this is a life cycle of what to do for one incident, right? But when there are many incidents happen at the same time, then this loop in the middle here might need to be executed independently for each of the incident. Detect, contain, detect again, contain, detect again, and contain and recovery until there's nothing left, right? Until the detection say that okay, there's nothing, all in the good state. Then you can move to the post-incident activity. Any questions or comment here about this life cycle of incident response? Do you think any other step is missing from this? Yeah, I think this flow here is quite straightforward, right? And there's a lot of like loops and back arrows here, so I think it's cover a lot of things already. Let's move on. Remember the NIST framework that we learned about during like cybersecurity management frameworks, right? Like in week 7 or week 8. And NIST framework is at a NIST cybersecurity framework or CSF. And in that framework, there's a few pillars, right? There's a many pillars that that you have to focus on. I think there are 5 pillars: identify, protect, detect, response, and recover. Identify is about understand the risk to the system, assess data capability. Protect is about putting security measure in place. Detect is about detecting event. Respond is about containing the impact, and recover. So you can see that across this 5 pillars, incident response is like cutting across all of them, right? So you can see that from identify and protect is always related to, I mean, all of them relate to incident response. Identify is relating to detecting the incident, and it's related to this step, preparation step here. Okay, and protect, all of this one is also part of the preparation stage for incident response as well. And then detect, respond, and recover correspond directly to this last 3 components in the life cycle of incident response. Okay. So many of this NIST framework, they are consistent with each other. It's not like one special publication propose one thing and another propose another thing. They're quite consistent. Okay, so this incident response life cycle can be mapped back to the NIST cybersecurity framework. Okay. So the next point we want to talk about is policy. So once we understand the main component in the life cycle of incident response, like what are major steps we need to do to deal with incident, we have to think about the policies, right? About policy. And one important part of this policy is the organization structures and the roles and responsibility of different team members when it comes to incident response. And the policy also specifies the priority and severity ranking of the incidents, right? So that is why that's coming back to our discussion on why we need the people from IT operation and legal and compliance, right? They helps with the ranking here, and so severity ranking and the prioritization of the incidents. And the policy also spells out the performance measures, like what is considered as successful and what considered as not successful. Okay, so these 3, I think, are the most important contents of the policy. Okay, remember the policy is a guideline that is used throughout the company, right? And the guidelines that is related to incident response, who is doing what. If there's an incident, then according to the company, which one is more important than another. And the third point of the policy is how do you evaluate whether this incident response program is working or not? Okay, for this policy here. So this is a very specific instance of cybersecurity policy. We learn about general policy, about like acceptable use policies and things like that in week 4 or week 5. Right? And incident response policy is another example of cybersecurity policy. This policy have to be written first before incident response can be implemented in the company. All right. So once you have the policy or the guideline in place, and you have formed an understanding of like what are the major steps needed to be implemented, then you get down to incident response planning, do actual planning. For every incident scenario, the planning team need to create a set of incident handling procedures. Okay, so for every incident, there must be 3 related documents, right? What happened during the incident, what happened during the incident, what happened after the incident, and what happened before the incident. Once this set of procedure or documents are in place, then the plan is basically to bring all these documents together. And this document serve as like the playbooks, and the playbook that you can refer to. Here's some example that an incident handling procedure, what happened before an attack, what happened during an attack, and what happened after the attack, right? So before attacks is like in the preparation phase. So this document here detail what need to happen before, like in preparation of incident response, for what happened to the user and what happened to the IT service before the attack. And during the attack, this is what need to be looked out for. When you detect that the attack is happened, you detect the incident is ongoing. Here are the guidelines. Here are what the user need to do, and here is what is the IT department need to do. And the yellow document here is what to do after the incident has been resolved. You are in the post-incident phase. And this document is structured similarly to the other 2. It spells out what the user need to do and what the technology service need to do. Like let's focus on the after an attack document here. And you can see that once the incident is over, then here is what you need to do to be better prepared for the next phase, the next attack. For the user, you need to scan the computer more regularly and need to review the email for suspicious content and to verify that the antivirus and malware are up to date. So this is a fix after the incident that need to be enforced. And for the service, for the IT departments, what they need to do after the attack include conduct incident recovery investigation. So a reflection really about what happened, what works and what didn't work. And it's also brief all the infected user on proper procedure to adhere to, right? And file the incident recovery investigation report. These are the things that need to be done after an attack. So to write this document, you require a few things. It's not like you can just come up with this during your sleep. You need a detailed understanding of the information system and the threat that they face. And this planning document seeks to develop a predefined response that will guide the team and user through the process. Okay, so you can see is the guideline of this document here are very details, right? It's spell out like what technology that need to that you need to pay attention to, and what step, what are the things that you need to do with antivirus, or what do you need to report and to whom, sort of thing. So to write this document, you need to have a pretty good understanding of the organization, IT operation. So that is why you need the guy from IT to help with this planning. Right? So action. Once you have all the plan in place, when the incident actually happened to you, how do you what do you do? And here's a few things that need to be done. We call incident response action, and they can be organized into 3 basic phases: detection, reaction, and recovery. So typically they would occur in order. In this particular order, you have to detect something first, and then you react to it, and then you recover. Okay. So detection, I think the word is quite simple to understand what it means, right? So detection means that you identify the incident. You know that it's happened. Reaction means that you do something to mitigate the impact, and recovery is again about bringing the system back into a good state. So in this book, I think it's this books from this table come from the textbook in our unit, and it shows a checklist, of the plan, of the response action that you may want to consider, and this checklist comes directly from the NIST document. So detection and analysis about determine whether the incident has occurred, and here's the thing that you might want to look out for. And the next action is containment, eradication, and recovery. And the last one is post-incident activity. So I think the second one here, they use a different word than reaction, but I think they are more specific. Reaction in this document means contain, eradicate, and recover. So let's talk about the next point to talk about is data protection in preparation. There's a few meanings of this step, data protection. Okay, let's discuss what it means. What's the obvious meaning of this one first? So an organization has a few options to protect. It means like to make sure that it's not completely gone, right? It's not completely broken. So option for protecting information and getting operation up and running involve backup and remote journaling and database shadowing and electronic voting. So you can see here that backup, I think backup is easy to understand, right? You just make a copy of it. Let's discuss this one later. And remote journaling. Does anyone in the audience is familiar with this technology can explain to us what is it remote journaling option means? And how does it protect the information? How do you perform data protection?
That is when you have your logs basically saved elsewhere, not on the device. Some usually centralized storage. In this case, if the device is hacked or damaged, the logs stay, and you can go back and at least trace what happened, what was predecessor, what happened right before this issue.
Okay, so why does they call remote journaling here? The remote as opposed to local, is that right?
Yes, local. So local would be logs would have saved on the device itself. But in this case, they'll be vulnerable for the same device is vulnerable. So both hack, wiping out damage to the disk, or let's say file damage would wipe out the logs, and you will not know what happened.
Okay. So how is this different to traditional backup? I mean, except that one is remote and traditional seem to imply that it's local.
It's not much different, but it's a real time when basically you save the logs in different save the logs remotely, basically. In this case, because backups usually happens either incrementals or happens on a schedule. In this case, your recent logs, which actually are the most important, would be lost.
But then what you saying that remote journaling happen more frequently than backup?
It can be just live. It can just go there straight away or go, let's say, 7 incrementals depending on the system. But it will be live, basically. Almost you will have almost full picture up to the end device stops working.
I see. Okay, I see. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I think that is. I think I agree with that definition of remote journaling as well. And I think this one is the word journaling is used to refer to the log as Andre said, because many of the system, even the operating system like the Mac or the Windows or the Linux, works based on some log, right? They log what you have been doing to the system, and all of this log actually serve as a ground truth. And if you back up the log, and then the system goes down, then one way you recover is that you replay the log, right? From some good state, you replay the log, and then because the log is the ground truth of the state, so it means that by replaying the log, you would get the system back to the running state, the current state before it crashed. So yeah, so it's a one form. I would say it's a one form of backup as well, and it keeps the data from being completely gone. So by doing this, you can get the system back up and running quite quickly. Okay, so next one is database shadowing. Anyone familiar with these technologies? I mean, if you have worked with database technology before, you might have heard of this this option. Does anyone know what this option means and can enlighten us?
Well, it's same almost as remote journaling. You basically when the database copy itself to some another copy. In this case, you have a shadow copy database, which basically ready to go. As soon as the main database not available for some reason, you can switch to the shadow copy and just recover very quickly and not lose any data.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is more like a more ready to go kind of backup, right? It's a like what is the word for it? I forgot. It's a hot replica and a cold replica. So there's a hot one that is serving the system, and the cold one is a standby. Honest, it's called standby. Standby. So this one is almost always in sync with the primary one, and it's ready to go. So it's like maintaining two copy of the same system, but one is running and the other one is keep in the shadow. And whenever the primary one goes down, then the shadow one can just take over very quickly. So this option, I think they are quite similar. The only difference is like the degree of how sync up they are with the primary copy of the data, right? So yeah, so in this sense, data protection means keeping a copy of it. But data protection in incident response may mean something else as well. And if you think from the forensic perspective, from the attacker perspective, then data protection could also mean something else as well, more related to security. What do you think the other meaning of data protections here is? So as I said, one meaning is that to protect the data from being completely destroyed, right? But what else could that mean, data protection?
What exactly happened? to the
Yeah.
why data have been destroyed. So one thing you have to do is first to recover data as soon as possible, recover the system to the state of working, and that will be what we're using all this database shadowing, something like that. But other thing, you have to investigate what exactly happened, why breach was possible. We need to find out if there's a vulnerability in the system, or it's some inside operation or some other way of attacking happened.
Yeah.
So you have to analyze the logs and see how exactly attacker got to the system and what it do, if it's possible. As many logs as possible you can investigate. Because you want to close the hole, you want to close the vulnerability, and because otherwise, if you leave it open, you will just recover the system. You just hack it again the same way, basically, maybe even almost straight away in some scenarios.
Yeah.
So you can't really put it live if you know this. It can be vulnerable. You can put it live without knowing what exactly is vulnerable and how to fix it.
Okay. Not sure if I can follow the lines of argument correctly, but it seems to suggest that it's also to do with backup, right? Like, about having the data available to you.
Yes. So backup, you will have to backup covers the part of you not lose your data, right?
Okay.
Which is the most important. You don't want to lose your data at any case. You want to be able to recover it as close as possible to what it was, right?
Okay.
But also you want to know what happened and how the data been destroyed or damaged or stolen. So you want to know what exactly happened to it. And this way you have to analyze your logs. You have to look into and try to find patterns. What exactly is wrong there? Like in this case, in most way you can find how attack began, how it progressed, which servers kind of gave up, or which software gave up. But again, nothing here is guaranteed. It depends. Every time depends on the nature of attack.
So it's more about protecting the data in the future.
Yeah, not even that, but the system itself. Because if system was susceptible to a hack, this means it stays that way, right? Even if you started from the recent backup, it's still susceptible, and the worst, the person who did it now knows susceptible. So there's nothing stops them to do it against either straight away or a bit later at the leisure. And in this case, you didn't really save anything because you restore your system, but it will just go down again and maybe even worse the next time.
Okay, yeah. So it's more about what to do with the logs, right? To
you need to
understand
know
what's going on.
It was what happened exactly and why it happened and how to stop it from happening again.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is very, very, very good point. So data protection here is more about protecting it from future attacks as well, about understanding what's going on in order to better protect the data. Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think my original intent for this question is more toward the protection part here, because imagine, I think if you see a lot of movie, what common thing that advanced attacker would do is that they would penetrate the system and then erase all the trace, right? So protection here is about making sure that the evidence is not erased. So it's more to do with forensic. So it make it hard for the attacker to not be able to erase like the activity that has done. So yeah, in a way, it's about understanding what happened as well, but more focusing on making sure that the data pertaining the log cannot be tampered with, cannot be deleted by the attackers, right? So even the attacker got admin access, for example. If the system is strong enough, even the admin person cannot erase a activity log. And by protecting those sort of critical information, then you can prepare for the incident better by getting a better understanding of what is going on. Okay. So yeah, so that is another meaning of data protection in the context of incident response. Okay, so all of this backup, all of this remote journaling and shadowing assume that all the attacker does is to steal the data or to destroy the data, like using ransomware, for example. So for the attacker that engage with ransomware, then many of this backup plan will work, right? But the attack that is more stealthy, that is like try to gain some insider information, try to exfiltrate some data out, then you need a better data protection in place in order to understand what's going on, right? Any other question or comments about this data protection? Yeah. So this example show that the preparation phase, even the preparation phase of incident response is not that straightforward, right? You have to spend some time thinking about this. Backup is simple. I mean, backup is quite straightforward, and many of the cloud services they offer very good backup, right? Now, if I was to upload my data to Google or to Amazon, I think they have much better backup than one that I would have in my computer or I could ever build. So, so backup is you are only at fault if you don't utilize those services. But remote journaling and database shadowing is a little bit more expensive, and you need to invest much more to have this option. So this is sometimes to trade off. I mean, there's a cost and benefit trade off between like which option to choose here. Okay, once you prepare, the next one is to detect the incident. And I think we have a good discussion last time. I think not on the class, but on one of the online workshop on like what data that you need to collect to be able to detect some incident, right? And it's this goal of detecting incident is easier said than done, much easier said than done, because most of the time you don't know what incident that you are looking for, right? So the job is much harder. It's like finding a needle in the haystack. So it's very important that you have the right data, you have the right analytics framework in place in order to detect the incident. And one of the challenges is to determine whether an event, a suspected event, is a product of a routine system use or an actual incident. And this brings us back to the discussion why we need the expertise from the IT operation department here. Yeah. You, as a security analyst, may think that, oh, there's a suspicious spike of traffic yesterday that was not there like for the entire week or entirely month, and you think that is a strong correlation, a strong red flag. But the IT operation people said, oh no, this is a normal one. So that's why this is important to eliminate most of the false positive first. Okay. Incident classification is a process of examining some adverse events or incident candidate. You have a list of suspicious one, and now it's time to decide whether this is an actual incident or not, right? You see a lot of event that is not normal, and you consider them as adverse, right? Adverse. And you have a lot of suspects, but then how would you know whether it's a true positive or false positive? Initial report from end user or intrusion detection system, host-based and network-based endpoints, and system administrators are always ways to track and detect incident candidate. Of all of this, I think there's none of them is foolproof from false positive, right? So even from end user, if you have a report from end user, you should always take them with a grain of salt, right? Because not all the end users are technically well versed. So they may think that this is a real incident, but it's actually is not, right? So for example, if the network goes down, many of us would go to panic mode and report it to the IT department team. Oh, no, we are under attack, thing like that. But most of the time, many of the real report are product of a routine system activity as opposed to an actual incident. Intrusion detection system, even the most expensive one that you can buy in the market, is no proof against false positive. Yeah, because they are based on some rules. Even they can use machine learning. You can use very complicated machine learning model, but those model does not work 100% of the time too. So they are suspect to false positive as well. And the same for host and network-based virus detection. I think they have the reputation of not only having a lot of false positive, but a lot of false negative as well. But they are very valuable source of information, and they help you to curate a list of candidates for incidents, right? Without those source of information, I think it's pretty hard for you to know what to look for, right? And the only thing that you can hope from this report and the notification on this system is that they have a very high sort of like true positive rate. Even so, there's a lot of false positive, but at least they don't overlook some of the real incident, right? So the job becomes the job will reduce to verifying whether some of these reports are actual incidents or not. Okay. So let's assume that you have done so, and once an actual incident is properly identified and classified, then the member of the team can execute the procedure from the plan. Okay, so in the incident, and if you're lucky enough, there's already a playbook for it in the plan, and you just apply whatever the guideline there. That is simple. Okay, so those reports that we talk about that come from end user or intrusion detection system or other system, they are called incident indicators. Okay, they are candidates, right? And these are the things that define them. So the lowest indicators, the one that is have a lowest chance of being a real incidents are called presence of unfamiliar files, for example. This is one example of like the lowest level of incident indicators. So for example, if a user detect a file that is not there since they last open the computer, they can report it. Right? And the presence of unfamiliar files can be one indicator. Moving to the next level, with a bit higher chance of it being true incident, are probably indicators. They include activities at an unexpected time, presence of a new accounts, or reported attacks, or notification from IDS. You can see that notification of IDS is only considered in the middle range here. Yeah? So it means they are not always truly effective. So this indicator should be considered a little bit more because there are more chance of them being true. And the definite indicator, the one on the top of the list, have very high chance of it being a true incident. So for example, the use of dormant account and the change to the logs. I think the change to the log is quite suspicious. Okay. So in a secure system, only 1 or 2 person can actually change the log. And if you observe that it changed by an unauthorized user, it's very easy to verify whether it's a true incident or not. And if you detect a presence of a hacker tools, like some payload that the antivirus has detected, have a known signature of it being a malware, for example, then it's a definite indicator of an incident. Or a notification by a partner or a peer a notification by hacker. This is the last indicator that you want, really. So here you are taken by surprise. The hacker is already in the system, right? And they were just bragging about it. And once you receive a notification by hacker, it means that it's a real serious incident. Okay, so these are the different group of incident indicator. And I will not go through the impact of incident on to the information asset. I think we have done a good job of them in assignment 1, right? So discussing like what could happen under this incident, whether it's a loss of vulnerability, a loss of availability, loss of integrity, a loss of confidentiality. The next step is reacting to incident. And these steps are designed to stop the incident or to mitigate its effect and provide information for the recovery. And we want this step to be as quick and as effective as possible. Right? This makes sense because we want to stop it as soon as possible. Right? The earlier that you can detect and stop the incident, the better. I mean, it is of no use if you can detect an attack as soon as it's happened, but if you don't react fast enough, if you leave it to the like 1 or 2 weeks after it's being detected, then yeah, it's not very helpful, not very useful. As soon as an incident is declared, so the right person must be contacted, right? So the right personnel must be on the case. And most incident response system will have an alert roster that contain contact information of the individual to be notified in the event of an actual incident. So that's why we have like people on call all the time, right? Whenever there's an emergency with the system, for example, then they will be paged, they will be pinged to deal with it as soon as possible. And they will be sent alert messages containing detail about what happened. And some other key personnel, like the CISO, for example, must also be notified, but they don't have to be notified as soon as the incident happened, depending on the severity of the incident, of course. But those have to be notified before you notify the press or external parties. Okay, so here is one example of the system called Preparis, Auto Incident Management. And one of the key features, one of the selling points here, I think they try to demonstrate here, is how they enable communication between communication about the incident, like who to call first and what is the chain of escalation. Okay, so if you call the person A and person A doesn't respond in timely matter, you have to call person B. Yeah. And this system can help you to craft the message to add more details about the incident. So many of this can be generated by the system automatically, but some important incident also require input from security analysts when they are included as part of the notification. Okay, and as soon as a incident has been confirmed and the notification had been sent out, then the documentation process must start right away. The documentation here refer to the documentation of the incident response process, right? It's not about the, not only about the incident itself, like what happened, what indicator has given rise to this incident, but it start document like the step that has been taken, like in the process of resolving this incident, right? So this one is important for post-mortem analysis, to reflect on what has worked and what didn't work. Okay, so the document should record who, what, when, and where, and why, and how action taken while the incident is occurring. So this is document like someone who observing the incident response as it is taking place. And it serves as a case study after the fact to determine if the right action was taken. And it's also proved as a evidence to say that the organization had did everything possible to deter the spread of the incident. So this is the best that they have done, right? So to show due care and due diligence. And the good thing with this documentation process is that it can be done by human, but it's also, I mean, many of the system have the capability of like logging all of this step within the system automatically. So you don't have to explicitly write down every step, but all of this step will be recorded for you by the system, especially if you use one like this one, for example. One of their feature is to produce this documentation. What happened and what worked and what didn't work. Okay. So once you start, I mean, in parallel to documenting, the next step, I mean, the parallel step is containment, right? So what you need to do to stop the incident and contain the impact. And there are two focus, of course. Stopping the incident is to be the foremost task, foremost important task. And the next one, once you stop it, then you can start thinking about how to recover from the incident. So some typical strategy for containment, I think the most straightforward way is taking the whole thing offline, right? That is the best possible containment. But I mean, this is the most straightforward, but it might not be the best depending on the business. So some typical strategies that have been employed in practice include disabling compromised user accounts, right? So as soon as you suspect that this one has been compromised, you should go forward with taking that account offline. Okay, so by removing the entry in the authentication server, for example, to make sure that the attackers who have compromised this account cannot log in. And the next step is reconfiguring the firewall to block the traffic. Okay, so this assumes that you know what the problematic traffic looks like, then you can reconfigure the firewall to block them. And here's also another assumption that you know how to configure the firewall properly. I mean, you could make a mistake here. I mean, in the heat of the moment, when everyone is in panic mode, you can configure you can make a misconfiguration and it's open up the system to more attack. Another action that you can take is to taking down the application or server. Okay? So for example, if you know the database server is being compromised, if you suspect that the user is encrypting all the data there, then it's better to take it offline, right? Basically, you can just go into the server room and then unplug the servers, or you can display it from using some dashboard. And the last step, I think the most effective one, bearing any business constraint, is to stop all the computer and network devices. Okay, so taking the system completely offline. So this is a containment strategies. And a good anecdote to share here, I think, about containment strategies. Does anyone here know of the Morris worm? And let me type it here. Morris worm. Yeah, I just type it here. So this one is one of the it is the first virus ever spread on the internet. And back then there was about 10 or 20 computer connected to the internet, right? So this Morris worm was developed by a professor at MIT. He was a professor now, but before that he was a programmer. So so he spread this virus, right, across the internet and across the 10 or 20 server on on the internet. And you know what they did to get rid of this virus, to mitigate that virus? Back then, back in the 1980s, there's no antivirus software then. I mean, there's not even a proper operating system back then. Can you guess what they did to get rid of this virus?
I assume they shut down the internet.
Yes, that's exactly what they did. They just call up everyone because everyone knows who, like everyone else is in the internet. They just call up everyone and say, okay, at this time, just unplug the computer from the internet and like delete that file. And then after that, everyone go back up. So that is stopping the world and restarting the world here. And that works in the 80s because there's only a few computers back then. But now you cannot imagine this happening, right? I mean, you cannot just take off the service offline without like making a huge dent in the revenue.
Actually, a similar thing happened not so long ago to Ethereum cryptocurrency.
Okay.
When they basically had to reverse a bunch of transactions for everybody to get rid of the damage done by a worm.
Oh, okay. It's done by the worm or it's done by
well,
some
there was some vulnerability, and then there was, I think, some crypto contract built into that, who basically was siphoning the money from everybody or from lots of transactions. I can't remember now the details, but it was something basically was say the more longer it runs, the more this worm gets because it's cryptocurrency. You can't undo that on one wallet only. Basically, this means this person who ever built this thing will get free money. So they ended up reversing everything for a month or so, because creating huge reputational damages for Ethereum for everybody. But there was no other options.
Yeah, I think that is a relevant example, but I must say it's not about it's more not about shutting down the world and restarting, but it's about reversing. I think that one is a quite bad example of a decentralized
internet. The fact they have to shut down everything to reverse, I think. So there was still a part of the time when the system did not work, and that was at that time already a pretty global system.
Yeah.
I don't think anything on this scale ever happened in a long time before.
Yeah, in terms of operation, then I think you can give that as an example. But actually, there's at no time when the system actually stopped working. It's still working, but as I said, that I would not accept this one anymore. But yeah, so that's a good example.
Yeah, there's also was just before now. There was a problem when a patch of Windows went, was basically destroying the system, and it was unreversible. So as long as you got this patch installed, you can basically undo that. So it was a huge again dent to the whole global transactions.
Yeah, that is very good.
It happens, but
I think not as rarely. I think you can count them on like one hand or two hands with all this incident, because it's not popular anymore and it's really hard to do in practice. Within a single company, if you own the own infrastructure, then you may afford to do so. But now everything is connected. I mean, you cannot ask Google or Amazon to shut down their server just because your data got compromised there. And yeah, it's one strategies, but not, I think, not very practical. So incident escalation is when the playbook doesn't work anymore. I mean, you apply everything in the playbook and it still doesn't resolve the incident. So you have to escalate it further. So the incident may increase in scope or severity to the point that you need to get extra help, right? So each of the organization have to determine the point where the incident is declared as a disaster. Okay, so it means that it's out of their control. And maybe it's time to engage an external party to come and have a look. And yeah, this is a last, I think you don't want to escalate it too high. I mean, a very well thought out program, incident response program, to be able to minimize the number of escalation. It should be automated as much as possible, and escalated as few as possible incident to the top. Right. One of the final step, one of the important step, not final yet, but very important step is about recovering from incident. It is about recovering that that this strategy doesn't work, right? So if the incident response is all about stopping the incident, then you can just stop everything. But because you are constrained with recovering, so that's why you need a different strategies. So this happens once the incident has been contained, or you are fairly confident that the incident has been contained. So the first task is to inform appropriate personnel that, okay, we are moving to the recovering phase. Or what do we do? And almost simultaneously, the team must assess the full extent of the damage. So this one is to documenting the impact here, like what has been stolen, what files have been damaged, things like that. And so this process is important to determine what must be done to restore the system. The immediate determination of the scope and the breach is called incident damage assessment. Okay, so this requires a bit of skill in forensics, because you have to go. You have to be very careful. You have to see like what files is intact and what file has been compromised. You have to look through the network log to see whether the attacker has still stole anything or not. And yeah, this is not an easy job to do. It's highly technical. And those who document the damage must be trained to collect and preserve the evidence. Yeah. So if you compromise this person who collect this incident data, then yeah, it's pretty much useless. The data that you have pretty much useless. And you want to protect this data or the evidence in case incident is part of the crime or result in a civil action. As I just mentioned, this in case this person so people who collecting the evidence are compromised. So you must make sure that the evidence is preserved properly. What does the incident risk recovery process consist of? One of the components is to identify the vulnerabilities that occurred and how it spread. And the next is to identify the control that has failed. Okay, so to identify what lock has been, what gate has been opened, and what misconfiguration has been done. Is there some misconfiguration, or whether the control itself, whether the software itself is not designed to handle such incident? So those things have to be evaluated. Okay, so you evaluate the monitoring capabilities, like why does those monitoring system did not flag it up? So the next, after you have done all this inquiry on what has gone wrong, then you need to find where the backups of the data and restore it, right? And restore the service and the process in use, and continuously monitoring this the system. And it helps to restore the confidence of the community as well. And this is why the communication department is very useful. They help you to craft the message that is not very alarming. Okay. And have to restore the confidence of the community of interest. There are a few common mistakes that that the team makes. I think this one is more experience from the fail case. So if they fail to apply a clear chain of commands, then it's pretty hard. The process, it can be a bit messy. if you fail to know the enemies, then what they are looking for, the incident that they are detecting, are not very useful. Okay. And there's some other mistakes here to avoid, and I will not go through them in the interest of time. Okay. Okay, so some recommendation from NIST for incident handling. They are pretty straightforward. You have to acquire the tools and resources necessary. It means that it's not cheap, right? Not cheap. You have to buy the system to handling the communication, to document the process, and it's assumed that you already have in place antivirus, firewalls, and intrusion detection that can give you these indicators, right? So all of this incident response relies on those resources, and you need money to buy them. And there's some other guidelines here as well, but I will not go through them. And there are more recommendations. This comes straight from the NIST publication, and I would not go into more details. Okay, so in an ideal world, right? The incident response plan is very good, and the security program is very good. That for a very long time you didn't observe a lot of incidents, right? So how do you keep the incident response team alert, like fresh, and what they call in soccer is match fitness, right? So for example, you have to constantly playing the game in order to be sharp, right? So how would you make sure that they are sharp enough to respond to the incident when it happened, despite the fact that you hope that for the entire year there's not many incidents for them to deal with. So there's some exercises that you want them to go through. For example, simulation exercises, right? And full-scale exercises. At least once a year, you want the team member to engage in such exercise, so to keep them up to date with things, with all the new incidents and the new threats. Okay, the last topic of today is we will touch on is about digital forensics, and we have discussed a few times today about how important it is to preserve the evidence, right? To preserve the log, and in order to have a full and correct understanding of what's going on during the incident. And the skill from digital forensic very useful for this purpose, because digital forensic is used to document and analyze how an attack on an asset occur and its impact. And the most important component of digital forensic is called evidentiary material, or evidence, right? So any form of evidence that you can get that can point you to the activities of an attack. So the definition of evidentiary material is any item or information relevant to an organization legal or policy-based case. It's a bit lengthy, but I think you can think of this as evidence, and I think most of us have a good understanding of what an evidence means. The objective of digital forensic is to investigate digital misconduct, right? To determine if some bad thing has happened, to confirm whether an unauthorized access or data breach has occurred. And the equally important role of digital forensic is perform root cause analysis. So this one is a very interesting task that combines the skill of security and data science. Okay, because this root cause analysis requires some machine learning or data mining background in order to find out the link between the events, right? So somehow you need to trace back what has happened, and there's a few standard algorithm and machine learning model that you can use to perform this. So if you are interested in in data mining or data science, and also in security, though you might do very well in this. Right. So for forensics, for digital forensics, a few steps that you need to do when it comes to handling the evidence. Like you have to identify them, acquire them, authenticate them. So it make sure that the evidence has not been tampered with, and to analyze evidence, because the evidence does not exist in isolation. Right? You have to link them. You have to correlate this evidence with another evidence, to uncover a big story. And the last but not least part is the report. Okay. So there's a few approaches to digital forensics. The first one is protect and forget. Right. So you do a quick check. And the second one is apprehend and prosecute. And this is one we usually identify with when we think about digital forensic. It's about someone who stormed the house and then sees our computers, right? And then go to some lab and do and run some fancy software on the hard drive to see what's going on. Yeah, so this approach is about seizing the evidence and preserving the evidence. Okay, so the team has some roles here. I will not go into, and here's some legal term. The affidavit and search warrants, and they are similar. They serve different purpose. And okay, evidentiary procedures. In order to use the output of digital forensic, to uphold it in court as the evidence in court, then you have to follow some protocol, right? You cannot just randomly do things. You have to follow strict protocol in order to demonstrate that the output is usable in court. So that is why this process here, apprehend and prosecute, they very careful about the protocol that they need to do. They need to follow. Okay. Yeah, and that is the end of the lecture today. And I will stop sharing now and see. We have a few more minutes. If anyone got any question for me, feel free to ask. Jamal will be back next week. So the review week next week, and he will be back. All good. I'm very glad to see that. So it means that you're focusing on the assignment, or if some of you already finished assignment. That's good. All right. If there's no other questions, then thanks everyone for not only for this week but for the last 3 weeks as well. And I hope you all the best the rest of the unit, and I will see you around. Right. Thank you.